Well, Season 3 is finally here. After the group was stranded on an island that they named Pokelandia at the end of Season 2, this season picked up after they'd been stuck there for a few weeks, and then after being rescued, the new quest that they were on to find El-Dorado, the Golden City, with Carlos Singh on their tail for the most part of it, and there being a few people returning from the dead as well as people then returning to the dead as well. Let's recap, break down, and explain all that there was to take away from this new season. So let's get into it. Here is Outer Banks Season 3 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Let's start by breaking down the ending. As we embarked onto the final episode of the season, we'd seen that all of the group had made it to Venezuela in South America. Sarah, John B, Big John, Pope, and Cleo all went on Ward's plane after he was saved by his son Rafe, who originally put a hit out on him. This meant that Ward was also going with them too, something which did cause a bit of disruption and uncertainty. Outside of this, we had JJ and Key who were finding their own way there due to JJ needing to rescue Key from the Kitty Hawk Rehabilitation Center, which he did successfully do. The gnomon which Big John now had both halves to was key to finding out the riddle that was in the language of Kalinago. And due to Pope being a Tanner, we saw that he had a note from one of his ancestors which was directed to Clarice from Denmark with the understanding of the language and what it all meant, so it made it significantly easier for the riddle to be broken when the moonlight was shining through the gnomon. Big John, back from the dead after being found by John B earlier on in the season, was very protective of the information, especially with it being around Sarah, Ward's daughter, who previously tried to kill him. However, by the end, we saw that he was willing to accept her as his own kind, a Pogue, and respected her. In an epic face-off where we saw Ward double-cross them all and inform Carlos Singh of their location, Big John was wounded in the process, and even though Ward promised to save his daughter, Sarah fired a weapon at him, showing that she had truly chosen her side, which ultimately tied back into the line that she mentioned a few episodes prior to the season finale, where she said that she was born a kook and became a Pogue. With them all escaping and finding the cave where El-Dorado was apparently located, John B and Sarah went inside due to Big John being injured and not being able to fit through the wormhole. Whilst John B and Sarah were inside locating El-Dorado and acquiring the gold that they laid their eyes upon, thus completing the mission, Carlos Singh was following a trail of blood where he then eventually went on to threaten to kill John B and Sarah when they returned. However, Big John was threatening to blow the place up in order to save his son. Personally, I didn't think that he would due to the past encounters of him being obsessed with finding El-Dorado and almost looking like he was possessed with the need of acquiring the gold and completing the work that he felt that his life's purpose was, and doing all of this no matter what the consequences were. But he did blow it up, which ultimately led to Carlos's death, as he was obsessed and went after it with the hopes of putting it out, but he failed. The next twist that we had was that Ward was there when they stepped out of the cave and he was threatening to harm John B, Sarah, and Big John, but he himself couldn't. He had it in his head that he didn't care for his daughter anymore and was prepared to take her out, but after she spoke with him and was ambushed by the rest of the group who by then had located where they were, he handed the weapon over. Then there was a third twist. The officer who was still up in the mountain was going to take out the group in revenge for them killing his friend earlier on, after they'd used the gnomon. In a true arc of redemption, we saw Ward look over at his daughter one final time and sacrifice himself in order to save her and the rest of the group, allowing them to find a safe passage down the mountain and back along the river. But it wasn't over then. During this, we saw that Big John was slowly dying due to the injury that he endured. His final moments were that of acceptance of Sarah into his family. He stated how proud he was of his son and that he would see him at home. He said all of this whilst holding onto a piece of gold from El-Dorado, marking his life's mission as complete. Even though he didn't get to see it himself, he got to live it through his son. A way that at the start of the season I don't think he would have ever imagined due to the obsessive nature that he had. Once the two characters who everybody believed were dead at the start of the season, Big John and Ward, were actually dead, we cut to 18 months later where all of them were being praised by the town for solving a mystery that had been around for 500 years. All of them were living what could be described as a normal life. Key was saving turtles, Pope was going back to school, JJ bought the charter boat, and Sarah and John B owned a shop. But it seemed like there was a sense of unfulfillment within them. A life of normality seemed like something that was definitely not for them. hence where the final part of the season tied into what looks like could have set up a season 4. A gentleman approached the group with a book that contained information on a ship that sunk in 1718, the exact location where it did sink. This was Blackbeard's ship, a ship that sank with a large amount of treasure on, treasure that's never been found even to this day. So with the group now being known for finding a wide array of treasure, they were the first port of call for the gentleman who wanted to locate Blackbeard's treasure. I think it's safe to say that this will be the very thing that's going to set up season 4 of the show, and I think it will be interesting to see how the group tackle finding a treasure that's famously known for being unable to be found. Considering they located El-Dorado, I imagine anything is possible for them. Additional extras from the ending. A few other main things that occurred in the season finale that didn't quite contribute to the ending but were definitely important and worth mentioning was JJ and Key finally being together and them both telling each other that they loved one another. JJ had been almost like a loose cannon throughout the entirety of this season, and he was a lone ranger. He had nobody, and the difference in family life from himself as a pogue and Key's family as a kook was something that kept getting to him. However, with him rescuing her from the wildlife retreat, we saw that they both said how they wanted to be with one another. Another relationship that we saw blossoming within this season was Pope and Cleo's. It was clear to see from the off that they were going to grow closer due to the sheer amount of time that they were spending with one another. By the end, when they were overlooking the jungle, we saw Cleo admit that she had feelings for Pope before they embraced each other for the first time. This felt natural and organic for the pair, as we saw how Cleo was there for Pope on a countless number of occasions, so that was good to see. I also feel Rafe had an interesting arc in this season. He was very much off to the side and was focused on the cross and the melting of it for gold, and also his power-hungry nature. So much so that he was prepared to have his father killed in order for him to live the life that he wanted to lead, but we saw him come through in the end and prevent it from happening, which meant that his father ended up leaving everything to him before he got on the plane. It does make me wonder if he will be seen as more of a good guy in the next season with the change of mindset. I thought this season of the show was pretty good. It was very long, especially with an hour and 20-minute season finale in episode 10. But it had an engaging story that, due to its length, was allowed to go into the depth that it needed to get the complexity of locating El-Dorado across the screen, and also show that the threat level was high. With the main mission and other side arcs going on, the world felt fleshed out and easy to understand. Sarah and John B are together, as they should be, despite going through their turbulence in this season. But you can't have a satisfying TV relationship without a bit of drama. So it felt like they were always going to find happiness together. The search for Blackbeard's treasure will be interesting in season 4, so I do hope that it gets to go ahead. So, there you have it, Outer Banks season 3 ending explained. If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions and character breakdowns, then click on the I button, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of this season? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.